Assalamualaikum dan selamat sejahtera. Tuan-tuan, puan-puan yang dihormati, majlis akan dimulakan tidak berapa lama lagi. Untuk itu, sukacita memohon kerjasama para hadirin agar dapat memastikan mikrofon tidak diaktifkan bagi mengelakkan sebarang gangguan dan majlis dapat berjalan dengan lancar. Terima kasih. Bagi pihak majlis, saya ingin merakamkan jutaan terima kasih kepada hadirin sekalian yang dapat meluangkan masa menghadiri program SLIP CD5 pada hari ini. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bagi memberkati majlis, saya menjemput saudara Muhammad Fakrullah Mahmud untuk memimpin bacaan doa. Dipersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalam ala sayyidina anbiya'i wa mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami ingin merapatkan kesyukuran kepadamu atas pertemuan kami pada hari ini. Jadikanlah kami hamba-hambamu ini sentiasa bersyukur terhadap rezeki dan kurniaan-Mu. Sesungguhnya Engkau Tuhan yang Maha Memberi. Ya Allah, ya Rahman, ya Rahim. Kami berhimpun hari ini untuk menjayakan majlis program kecemerlangan kepimpinan Ketua Pustakawan dan Timbalan Ketua Pustakawan Institut Pengajian Tinggi SLIP ini. Maka kau pemudahkanlah majlis ini supaya ia berjalan dengan lancar. Kami ingin menikmat ilmu sebanyak mungkin supaya kami mampu mengembangkan potensi kami sehingga menjadi hamba-Mu yang kau redai, ya Allah. Kurniakanlah ilmu kepada kami, sinarilah hati-hati kami dengan hidayah-Mu. Sesungguhnya Engkau Tuhan yang Maha Mendengar lagi Maha Mengetahui. Ya Zal Jalal wal Ikram. Hadiahkanlah kepada kami kesihatan badan, kejekasan minda, ketenangan jiwa dan kekuatan semangat. Kami memohon kepada Engkau, ya Allah, bantulah kami dalam menghadapi segala cabaran. Ringanlah beban kami, sesungguhnya Engkau yang Maha Kuasa. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Subhana rabbikal izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala mursalin walhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Taqabbal minkum.
Amin, amin ya rabbal alamin. Terima kasih atas bacaan doa sebentar tadi. Yang bahagia, Academician Profesor Emerita Datuk Seri Dr. Mazlan binti Osman, Director of International Science Council, Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific. Yang berusaha Puan Zahrah Abdul Samad, Ketua Pustakawan Perpustakaan Tunku Tun Aminah UTHM, merangkap Ketua Program SLIP. Yang dihormati Dr. Kasiah Zakaria selaku Moderator Program, Barisan Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam, Barisan Timbalan-Timbalan Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam, tuan-tuan, puan-puan, para peserta program yang dihormati. Program pada hari ini adalah kesinambungan daripada program SLIP Siri 4 yang telah dijalankan pada 15 Oktober 2021. Program SLIP merupakan kolaborasi di antara Akademik Kepimpinan Pendidikan Tinggi AKAP, Jawatan Kuasa Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam dan Perpustakaan Tunku Tun Aminah Universiti Tun Hussein On Malaysia UTHM. Program ini bertujuan bagi memantapkan kelestarian kepimpinan pegawai kanan perpustakaan dan juga memperkasa peranan ketua pustakawan dalam mendepani perubahan ekosistem pendidikan tinggi yang sangat dinamik dan mencabar serta perlu peningkatan kompetensi kepimpinan. Para hadirin sekalian, program SLIP modul Open Access akan diteruskan pada hari ini dengan perkongsian daripada Yang Bahagia Academician Profesor Emerita Datuk Seri Dr. Mazlan Osman dengan topik Philosophy on Open Science and Open Access. Untuk makluman, program ini akan dikendalikan oleh Yang Dihormati Dr. Kasiah Zakaria selaku Moderator Program. Yang bahagia Datuk Seri, izinkan saya membacakan profil Dr. Kasiah Zakaria dalam bahasa Inggeris. Dr. Kasiah Zakaria was born in Selangor, Malaysia. She received advanced diploma in library science, bachelor in mass communications, master in library science, and PhD of library science in 2016, all from University Technology Mara. Her research interests are in information retrieval and evaluation, citation analysis and evaluation, and natural language processing. She has published 9 research papers, 3 book chapters, and invited as an international speakers in by more than 30 organizations. Dr. Kasiah Zakaria is responsible for all service and functionalities of Library, Gallery and Museum for June 2019 until 21st March 2022. Prior to this appointment, she had a number of management roles at the libraries of University Technology Mara, National Productivity Center, and Dewan Bahasa and Pustaka, serving as library client service, collection management, and acquisition areas. Tanpa melengahkan masa, Majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan Yang dihormati Dr. Kasiah Zakaria bersama-sama Yang bahagia Academician Profesor Emerita Datuk Seri Dr. Mazlan Osman dengan perkongsian sesi pertama Philosophy on Open Science and Open Access. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Thank you very much, Pengerusi Majlis, Puan Nur Fauzan binti Mat Sarwin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang berbahagia Academician Professor Emerita Datuk Seri Dr. Mazlan binti Osman, FASC, Director of International Science Council, Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific. Yang berusaha Puan Hajah Zahra binti Abdul Samad, Ketua Perpustakaan Tun Aminah, UTHM, merangkap Ketua Program Excellip. Barisan Ketua Pustakawan dan Timbalan Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam, tuan-puan peserta program yang dihormati dan dikasihi. Alhamdulillah, syukur kepada Allah, pada pagi ini kita semua dapat berkumpul secara maya bersama-sama untuk mendengar perkongsian ilmiah daripada yang berbahagia Profesor Emerita Datuk Seri Dr. Mazlan binti Osman dengan perkongsian yang bertajuk Philosophy of Open Science and Open Access. Sebelum itu, izinkan saya membacakan sedikit profil Dr. Mazlan, penceramah kita pada pagi ini. Ladies and gentlemen, I will read the summarized biodata. Actually, this is quite long for our honorable presenter, our dear Professor, Academician Professor Emerita Datuk Seri Dr. Mazlan Osman. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mazlan obtained a PhD in astrophysics from the University of Otago, New Zealand, and became a lecturer at the University Kebangsaan Malaysia in 1981. She then was seconded to the Prime Minister Department in 1990 to set up and head the Planetarium Division, which subsequently became the Space Science Studies Division in 1993. She was later appointed by University Kebangsaan Malaysia as Professor of Astrophysics in 1994. Later, she was appointed the Director of the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, or UNOOSA, in Vienna, Austria in 1999. After her return to Malaysia to become the Founding Director General of the National Space Agency, or ANKASA, beginning July 2002. In this capacity, she established the National Observatory in Langkawi and National Space Center in Selangor. She later headed the National Angkasawan or Astronaut Program, which saw the launch of the first Malaysian to the International Space Station in 2007. Datuk Mazlan also was responsible for the launch of Malaysia remote sensing satellites. One is Tiong SAT and the second one was Razak SAT. She later attended the Advanced Management Program, AMP 169 at Harvard Business School in 2005. Professor Emerita Datuk Mazlan resumed post as Director of UNOOSA in December 2007 upon retirement from Malaysian Civil Service. She was later appointed Deputy Director General of the United Nations Office at Vienna in June 2009. After her retirement from the United Nations in December 2013, she was appointed as Project Director of Mega Science 3.0 at Academy of Sciences Malaysia, ASM, from 2014 to 2016. And now she was offered a Fulbright Scholar at the Space Policy Institute of George Washington University, 2015 to 2016. That was quite long, Dato'. And without further ado, with all due respect, let us welcome Yang Berbahagia Academician, Professor Emerita Datuk Seri Dr. Mazlan binti Osman. Thus, she may illuminate and expound the topic about philosophy on open science and open access to us. Dipersilakan, Datuk Mazlan.
Thank you, Kasia. Wow, that was a long, read. Anyway, as you can tell, I am I'm not. Oh, okay, you wouldn't know whether I'm at home, but I am in a hotel, and the reason is that we had an international meeting, international conference on tropical sciences contributions to sustainability, Monday sampai Wednesday. Until Wednesday, it finished very late last night, as you know, because it's a global meeting. We didn't finish until 10 p.m. And of course, I opted to stay at the hotel rather than go home. So that's why I'm in a sort of a different place from usual. And so actually, it would have been crazy for me to have accepted any invitation to speak today. But when Kasia called me some time back and asked if I would speak, naturally, I knew that it would be the day after the conference. I couldn't say no, because it's coming from a librarian. And for those of you who are very young, okay, I did my PhD like 40 years ago. Let me see, I got my PhD around 1980, yeah, about 40 years ago. So I started my PhD something like 45 years ago.
Wow.
So for those of you who do not understand what it means to be doing research at that time, supposing I had to have an article, of course, the university had to subscribe to as many journals as possible. And journal subscriptions are extremely expensive. And for a country like New Zealand, I was studying in New Zealand, which was quite remote, It's not like we had access to other libraries in town or something like that. And so if I wanted, so the range of journals was small, okay? Because the university couldn't afford that many journals to subscribe to. And then of course, from one article, you would find another article. And so I would go to the librarian, who became my good friend, to request for articles. And we would go for interlibrary loan. Kasia, I don't know if these people know anything about interlibrary loan. And then and the article would come, would get posted to me, to the library, not to me, maybe 1 month later or something like that, because tak ada fax pun masa tu, not even fax. It was a luxury. So so I was totally dependent on the library and librarians. And so if I want to say that what factor helped me most in my PhD is the library and librarians. So I couldn't say no to Kasia, even though it's very, very, as I said, a bit crazy, yeah? And so my presentation today is not exactly very, what is that word, precise. I just put together some things so that I can just talk. And I've asked Kasia to help me share my slides. Okay, so this is the library, this is a library of books, which for most people do not see library as this anymore. But I'll show you at the end my favorite library in the world. Okay, so what about science? And so in the end, I'll give some connection to librarians. Okay, so let's start the first slide. So all of you, if you're talking open science, if you go to Google, see there's a difference between you and me before. So you Google open science and you get so much stuff, millions of entries, but we can say that there are actually 6 core principles. And by the way, the definitions change from one organization to another. It's all right. We don't have to, I normally, even though as a physicist, physicists are very precise and we like to define stuff, I find that it's not necessary to define everything. And if you think about some principle, some philosophy is better than a definition. So open science is about open data, open resources, open source, open access, open methods, open peer review. And as I said, I don't need to describe every one of this in detail. As I told Kasia, I'm not an expert in open science. Right? You heard from the very beginning that I'm an astrophysicist. I've never had to deal with open science, and I'll tell you why that was a good thing, dulu. But I've always, when I came across this idea in my organization, the International Science Council. I work for the International Science Council, and they have a big movement. They have a big program which supports the open science movement in the world. And I noticed that not enough of open science is being talked about in the country. And so I went to see the CEO of ASM, Puan Hazami, Kasiah kenal, Puan Hazami, and I said to her, have you heard about this thing about open science? And she sort of vaguely thought she might, but then I explained to her. And then I said, we have an opportunity through the support from the International Science Council, which I will call ISC from now on, because they have a whole range of experts, networks in the world that will help us set up our own open science platform. So in 2019, I called 3 open science experts from the ISC, 1, 2, 3, yes. And they came here and we sort of scoped what is it that we would do for open science. But at that time, I was thinking about regional open science. I wasn't thinking of Malaysian open science. I was thinking of regional open science because, our office is a regional office for Asia and the Pacific. And so we thought about how to connect, which countries to connect to, Australia, Japan, and whatnot. And there was a nice scoping that went on. And I learned so much about this subject. Then when I went to speak to, I think in between some of those meetings, I was talking to Hazami over tea, something like that. Then I realized that here I am talking about open science at a regional basis, and me being the core of setting up some platform for Asia Pacific open science platform, because we have already an African open science platform. And actually, Malaysia has no open science platform. So I thought, how can we talk about going internationally if Malaysia doesn't have anything? It doesn't look good. And so, so we had a 2-pronged approach, Hazami and I. Firstly, to go for the regional context, we decided that we would go the APEC way. The Asia Pacific Economies Council Commission, APEC. But APEC, includes US, China, Japan. I think it includes Papua New Guinea. I'm not sure, but it includes a lot of countries, and not just we are used to Asia, but this is Asia Pacific. But we needed a political platform. Later, I'll tell you why we needed a political platform. We needed a political platform to push the movement, the idea of the movement of open science. And so we got ready to make presentations at APEC. And then, so that's why you see some of you, University of Malaya people, how we brought some experts to University of Malaya through a meeting of the APEC. Now you see where the connection is, the APEC. Huh? And then we also decided, you know, we must push this in Malaysia itself. And that's why Hazami went to MOSTI and pushed this open science idea. That time it was with YB Yo Bi Yin. And she bought the idea, you know, and that's how we got funding for the Malaysian Open Science Platform, and it just took off, you know. So we had two parallel programs, one at MOSP, which was mainly run by ASM, and that's how she got Nur Saadah involved, Hazami. And then I ran the regional one through APEC. But a lot of the time, we were going across the two initiatives. I always brought international experts to weigh in on the subjects when we talk about open science in Malaysia. And of course, internationally, people are always keen to know how do we start on this journey, you know? And I could say, okay, Malaysia has started on this journey. Malaysia has a lot to offer. And so this is good for me too. At the international level, I was always promoting the people from the Malaysian Open Science Platform. So I thought I should step back to see where this all started. But Alhamdulillah, we got money, as I said, for the MOSP. There are projects going on. I have some side project on biodiversity there, which I dealt with last night, which is terrific. But anyway, I remain in this open science ecosystem, but I have decided to focus on a very small domain, which is tropical biodiversity. Because, you know, Kasia, you yourself, Abriza, Nur Saadah, Chisan, you all can push for the country all the other issues of guidelines, whatever the infrastructure should be, policy issues. I let you all push that, the big picture. But I think where my own small non-expert contribution would be in pushing open science for tropical biodiversity. If any of you followed the panel session we had last night on open science for tropical biodiversity, there's a huge data gap where the only one, we are in the tropics, 80% of the biodiversity is here. The forest, mangrove, semua dekat sini, you know. However, when you look at the data, we only have 1% of the data, of the international data. So there's a huge data gap in the tropics. There are many reasons for that. And this is the issue of open science. What do you share in the open science? When I talk to data centers here, Sabah, Sarawak, or Frim, a lot of researchers don't like to share data. This is another issue we'll bring up later. Because they think that, especially the governments, state governments, they don't like people to come and poach, because they know this is there is this particular species and it's in this part of jungle, which we have to reveal as part of the database. People will come and poach, and so that's the reason. But the other is, of course, no resource, no digitization, no staff, no understanding. Now, that is where our MOSP is supposed to overcome. But you see here, there will be open data. You know, you have to make everything open, what you have, and people must be able to openly access it. So this is the thing about FAIR principles, they call it. So everything is findable, accessible, interoperable, and replicable, reproducible. And so you use open methods. in this within this open science context. And the important thing is open peer review. I will tell you the impact of that on scientists. And of course, you want to use your data. It is open for everybody. It becomes open source. And what to say, open resources here. You use the methods. So anyway, as I said, I'm not here to lecture you on what those particular elements are. It's just as a segue into what I'm going to say next. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, I also want to tell you that the way you do open science is you must collaborate. And this is a good article that I saw, and it showed two kinds of model. One is political, and the other one is purely economical. So with the politics, and that is, Kasih, I think you agree with me, our model here in Malaysia is political. It's a political will, it's top down from government, like MOSTI, then MOSTI is to insist on the universities to go down, but it's political. And so it's mainly about open access and open data. It's also political in a way. You see, if you get funding from the EU for any of your project, they will insist that you have to put all your data on their database. Yeah, so it's a way of, I give you money, I would like to co-own your data. And this is going to be true all over the world. Dulu, I mean, in my time, we kept our data in notebooks too, okay lah. Can still access notebooks, but some of us kept it in floppy disks. Anybody here knows what a floppy disks?
Sure, we've been doing that, indexing the floppy disks.
Yeah, those are big, and they are floppy,
Yeah.
And then you keep them somewhere. Okay, in the notebooks of PhD students, which you can never ever see again. Is one thing, and then floppy disk, and then within about 5-6 years, you cannot access the data on the floppy disks anymore because you don't even have the machine to do that.
Yeah.
And now, if you have your data on CDs, also you can't access that data in a few years. You have to go to cloud storage, So even if you are sincere about putting your data somewhere, there are impediments as well. And that's why we need a top-down approach, because the people at the top will have to decide, we have to have a conversion system from floppy disk to what, and that costs money, So this, I think the political method works because we need the funding, we need the carrot and the stick. And this political, but the other model is a company model. It's this economic model. Of course, you establish because you have some contract or so, and because you want to innovate. A company is totally invested in in building value, in adding value. So that's an economic value, but I won't say much about it because it's not within our group to talk about this economic model. I talked about fair just now. I should also say that there are other principles people adhere to, like care. Care is about, I think Kasia can tell you what care is, but I know that it's to do with indigenous knowledge. Apa C, apa AR tu, I can't remember, but I know it's about protecting indigenous knowledge. This is also very important. We want it to be open, but we must protect certain things. Next slide. So, I deliberately put this slide on there. It's not that I want to explain anything there, but if you think you know what is open science, I looked at this and thought, oh, okay. Yes, it is, it evolves. I mean, it becomes more and more the elements. But I think where the librarians come in will be, the huge thing there, open data standards, open lab notebooks, the workflows. I think the librarians come a lot in that aspect there. So where would I be? okay, I'll be defining, philosophy that don't have to do much, just talk. And then, of course, even before this open science, to the left is advocacy. Yeah? Unless someone advocates and champions, it won't happen. So I am, even before that first dot, before open science can happen, the advocacy. This is something I took from Foster. Again, there are many definitions. I like the Foster definition. I'm deliberately not giving you a definition because I'm thinking, nope, this is something on philosophy, and philosophy you don't define. So you find yourself the definitions. But I say to people, you have to wrap your head around all of these. Not just the one on the left, which is open access, and the 6 core principles. So on top of that, the other things. Okay, so next slide, please. And I deliberately put this because we think open science is good, but actually open science is not always, people are not receptive to open science, or even they cannot even access open science. So let us go a little bit through that, because we want to know what is stopping open science from being widely accepted. Yeah, the first is that open data. Ingat tak? You see, I remember I said to you, why would I put my data out there? Because you will see my data and you will scoop me. Yeah, so there's a fear of being scooped. And then the way science works today, you reward people for being the first, for having something unique. Nobel Prizes are only given to 3 people and no more, so how do you, so you have to be on top and in front all the time. But this is very, very, to me, not counterproductive. Maybe I'll use the word counterproductive, because if you look at the astrophysics journals, or even Nature, you look at the number of authors. My God, there are hundreds sometimes. And then, there's one very famous paper in astrophysics, almost 1,000. Because they feel that everybody, even the student who looked at the equipment, and built some part of the equipment, is a part of that process, and his or her name should be there. And so if that is the seminal paper, if that is the paper that drives the next part, okay, gravitational wave was much, further back. But if we found dark matter, what is this that makes up dark matter? I'm not sure we can give it to one person, or even 3. So, and so people keep the data so that they can be the first to talk about it. And that is why the risk of being scooped, of fear actually of being scooped. And then of course there's also data privacy issues. You're a medical doctor, or you're working, I said, with indigenous groups. You cannot just reveal their data. Then the next thing is open peer review. Open peer review means if before only exclusive groups of people will review, your papers, now it's open for review. If you go to open access journals, and therefore they fear that some people who don't like you may, say something not nice about you. And then there is this issue of your own, how people perceive you. And if they perceive that, especially this is a big problem with you trying to publish in, say, journals, international journals. If you're not friends with that group, with the editors, or you don't share the same ideas with the editors or whoever is running the journal, more often than not, your paper will be rejected. This is, we call it, is a colonization of this whole issue. I like the word colonization because 2 nights ago, I think, we talked about decolonization of climate change, where we're looking at climate change from some people's views. Very little is said about the impact of climate change in the tropics with a lot of data and whatnot, because nobody wants to do research for us. But anyway, this decolonization issue is so fantastic. I love it. But it's the young people who are talking about decolonization. I hope there are many young people there. Because, you know, people like me, okay, right, that makes sense. But, you know, we just went on with the flow in our time. I don't think we questioned very much these things, but I love the fact that young people are questioning these things. But another thing, if I forget, Kasia, I want to say that a lot of these things I'm saying is maybe makes you feel it's negative. People don't want to do this, people don't want to do that. I am very optimistic about the young people, our future generations, because they are a sharing generation. I saw a paper on millennials, and 80% of millennials put collaboration as the top criterion for them to get a job, or to accept a position, or to do work. They love collaboration. And why not? Kan Kasia, they early in the morning, they take a picture of their breakfast and tell us.
Okay.
It's a little bit over the top, but they are a collaborating generation, and for that I'm very, very optimistic about the way forward. We're going to solve our problems collaboratively because our young people are open to collaboration, and of course they can on their handphone contact anybody, you know, not us before. I never could ring home, for instance, because it would have cost too much.
On the extreme side, they are show-offing.
Okay, a show. Yes. And then, you know, I one time I didn't want to look at Facebook anymore because I saw that all my friends were having perfect lives, perfect food, perfect children, perfect husband, whatever. And I thought, oh my God, what is my life? You know, my life is a shambles compared to some of their lives. Then I realized, actually, I'm not sure about that. And I got out of Facebook. But yeah, you're right. People show off. And then, okay, peer review, preprints are ini yang. This is what really hurts research, because we have to wait, you know, for the journals, for our papers to be reviewed, and then finally published. Whereas if we shared our preprints, you know, we cut short by a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 years.
3 years.
Yes, having people on the average.
Average.
People appreciate what we are doing. And then, of course, there's open access publishing. People think that open access means free. No. You actually have to pay for open access publishing, etc., etc. And then there's one word I like here, which is questioning senior collaborators who may not want to work open. And that's my generation. As I said, we don't want anybody to scoop us. Therefore, this also, this is thing about gatekeepers. We are gatekeepers to our knowledge, gatekeepers to our research funding, you know, and we're not so open. But, and we impede the path of young scientists. But that's another story altogether. Okay, so as I said, open science is not always open, and the barriers in the way people are, as I said, evaluated for promotion is always, did you do a breakthrough by yourself? And then if you're looking at your publications, how many names are there? Are you first author? Are you third author? You know, whereas alphabetically, my name could be like 3/4 of the way down. Of course, there are ways to overcome that, sure.
Yeah.
But no, open science is not always the thing, always you know, acceptable to everyone. Okay, next slide. Then again, I want to come back to the fact that open science, why we need open science, because open science is a big umbrella. Again, they're talking about open access, need open educational resources, because pandemic has shown how important these educational resources are. I talked about open source, open data. two things here that are a little bit different from this picture. I think a picture, if it suits what I'm going to say, I pick it up. And this one was somebody called Robin Champion. Anyway, it allows equity, you to talk about equity, diversity, inclusion. From all things I said before, it actually has impact on these three issues. And that yesterday also, when we talked about tropical diversity data and the fact that we have only 1% of the data, and that most of the data, in fact, even in other countries, are those where you reach only accessible areas. So who goes to the inaccessible areas? No? In Malayalam Basin, I remember I went for an expedition in Malayalam Basin. Nobody has ever been there before. That sort of excitement,
Yeah.
But then somebody said that citizen science is the way to overcome this, for people to generate data. But of course, you must help the citizens on how they can generate data, because we don't want them to give us bogus data and whatnot. Okay, so then that allows me to talk about that open science is about cultural change. And I think Kasia knows this, is the way we work, is the whole culture. So it's not just about research only, but the whole culture of being open, and also open science, because of that, is an inclusive force. You make all your academics talk to each other. There's so much jealousy, but I'm hoping that this can change that. Also, I think we want to expand the circulation and the utility of our works. And open science will allow people who are disadvantaged. People in Africa, for instance, they have no money to subscribe to journals, So we're hoping that through that we can be more inclusive and include the disadvantaged, remove the barriers of access to research. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is where you guys are, open science and academic libraries, which is why I chose this picture. And I thought, yes, of course I have to choose this picture, because it's about the role of academic libraries. So different people have different roles, but I think librarians have the best role of all, because here I'm going to read Saja, or just pick up some points from this article that I saw about how librarians, what you can do. And if you're not doing some of these things I'm reading, they're not my original ideas, you might think about it. Okay, so here it is. It says, but there are smaller goals and larger goals. So I'll read the smaller goals first, that you as a librarian, you could encourage practices like sharing preprints and code. It says here, these are low investment practices, and they're rising in acceptance, and can open the door to discussions on open licensing, valuing all research products, and of course, encourage collaboration. And I think that librarians can encourage this kind of issues, talking about these issues. And you should ask questions about how a researcher's discipline, how it deals with reproducibility, evaluating digital and open work, or are they inviting public engagement or not? But you may be the person to ask the researchers, especially about reproducibility, because there's so much fraud. People can just cut and paste here and there. Okay, plagiarism is a separate issue altogether, but people can get data, or invent data. This is a huge problem. And you can ask your colleagues, either in the faculties or in the administrators, what are their strategies for supporting open science? So it shouldn't just always come from Nosada, for instance, in the University of Malaya, but other people as well. Okay, here I like this. So it says shuttle shifts, like what software you as a librarian recommends, or what words you can use to describe research support that would help the open science movement. Okay, and then this other thing is adopt the language of what is open, what is open as a spectrum rather than on and off. It's not like a light switch. So when we talk about open, is a spectrum. I like that the open science, and I think Kasia knows this, the open science philosophy is as open as possible and as closed as necessary. So this is, I always use this expression trying to reassure people that we are not asking for for you to tell us everything, because we know medical especially they have to remain close. And this I like, it says start a club, a journal club, or an open science club where you have tea. It says here start a reproducibility, T as in TEA club. So I have tea.
Very interesting.
I always call it teh tarik conversations. You just call people, and because people cannot feel threatened or uncomfortable under those circumstances. So the more you make it casual, the more people, It says here, all the best things about open science happen together with when you have interested and excited people. And it says here, libraries are great for coordinating points for communities. Citizen science. And I think what I might like to do is, I have a whole group of people, who are amateur astronomers, and then I think I might bring them to a library and get the library to host, the meeting of amateur astronomers to talk about how they can put their the data or their photos, especially, or they get terrific photos, on an open database through the library or something like that. And I think libraries are great for this. I've been to libraries where they deliberately open for you to, before in my when I think about libraries, you cannot say a word, you cannot eat, you cannot drink, but oh my God, libraries today, there are sections where you relax, you kopi, just like bookshops. But bookshops, they want you to come and stay as long as possible, because they want you to buy more books. But thank goodness, libraries are not like that anymore. And then you explore self-training in the areas of open science. I'm sure you're doing that anyway. Yes. What are the larger goals for the librarians? So librarians should support adapting institutional policies like hiring, tenure, and promotion. Yes. Well, how is this that you advocate that reward should be that you reward people for sharing data? I've seen this, people do that your data, when you share data through some publication, that already is considered a publication. It's not just data, but yes, most of it is data, not yet analyzed, but still is considered a publication. Those are the things that you can encourage university, vice chancellors to think about. And then here, for your larger goal, long-term goal, you advocate for the long game in shifting support from proprietary systems and products to community-supported, academy-owned infrastructures. I think you guys know what those are. They give example here, Zotero, Open Citations. I don't know what they are, but I think the fact that you can advocate for infrastructure that's community supported and academy owned. And one more larger goal here, which is the last one, is to contribute to the reshaping of universities as open knowledge institutions. That's what we are, universities. We serve the society. And you think about these open knowledge institutions by making libraries increasingly visible further upstream. Right now, not right now, in my time, libraries are downstream. It is the product, but there is the idea that you must be more involved upstream. That is the kind of advocacy you can do. Let me see, what's the time? Oh, 9:24 already. Okay, so I have 15 minutes. So here I like the fact that libraries invest people, time and money. Already Open Science continues that push, pulling together threads from data librarianship, it says. And this is what I like best. I think this is my second last slide. What did it say? Librarians have a broad scope of skills. The role of librarians, I already talked about. Librarians have a broad scope of skills and expertise to lend to world-building engagement in open science. And I love this particular statement. It says, the librarians are poised at the crest of the global open science wave.
Yes.
Aren't you guys great? So that's the role of librarians, and how you can incentivize, galvanize, other people. I'd like to show you one picture here.
All right.
Next, please. You know that I was in Vienna for 10 years. No, after this, next slide. Yeah,
Beautiful.
this is my favorite library in the world. If you haven't been to this, okay, even the library in Paris looks like this, but the library in Vienna is a tourist spot. You see that? And the books are, you can read them, you take them, you read them, you can borrow them. But how inspiring is this? Libraries should look more like this, kan, Kasia?
We're really wishing over the stars.
But you know me, I love the art, and I have to be inspired wherever I go. That's why I do astronomy and astrophysics, because I have to be inspired, and there's nothing that can inspire one more than astrophysics and astronomy. But look at this library. So thank you for being so patient with me. I'm not an expert, I said. I'm here to just talk about the philosophy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato. MashaAllah. I'm just, curious how you really put in all this data to us, because, being philosophical, is about understanding about the whole spectrum of knowledge, but for us, the librarians, we have, as you mentioned, we shouldn't be a product, that I think that really hit us hit me quite hard, that we've been being a product, a producer, or a gatekeeper. You mentioned those words, So maybe now we need to have, I have put in at least 7 proposals from you, what are the new roles of the librarians in the future. So I really hope our young librarians here, most of them are very young, Dato.
Yes.
Maybe some of us only, maybe only 10-20% only, the older generation, but most of these librarians are very young. So I hope they are preparing a lot of questions. So I hope we can start the question and answer session now. I think this is really, really beautiful that, how I have already, I heard you mention about the astrophysics, and of course the stars and the moons,
What motivates me?
Yes, because you showed us the things that is in the spectrum of the higher level, the 30,000 feet, the 100, the 3 miles view,
Right.
Yeah. So,
but as an astrophysicist, I'm showing you even a higher view than that. Have you seen this up in your librarians? I'm sure you know this. That this video by Carl Sagan. It says the pale blue dot.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, I would like to, after this, go and Google, go to YouTube, the pale blue dot. There are a few versions, but essentially what this says is you will go further and further and further away from the earth. Then everybody that has lived, everybody who's cruel, who's kind, has ever lived or is living, is there on that pale blue dot. And we're just a speck of dust in the sunbeams, in the light beam. something like that. But it's so fantastic. It's humbling. I don't know of any astrophysicist who's actually arrogant, because every day we are looking at how small we are. We look at the sky. Oh my God.
Yeah, understanding you, you're so humble, you know.
Oh no. I'm not talking
Looking
about.
at your credited. I think I was trying to follow through your. We have 10 offers, yeah, since 1981. So
Okay.
imagine that, you are seconded, you are appointed, you are
Yes,
heeding,
Oh yes.
Yeah, all yes.
When people ask me how they want to see whether they can follow my path in my career, but actually everything is like accidental or fated. I always believe in fate. I went from a researcher, a physics researcher pula tu. It's not that I was doing international relations or political science, but I was an astrophysicist in physics, and I became a senior diplomat in the United Nations. So that's a huge gap, But to go and most of them, they're not quite random movements. You know about random movements. They're not quite random.
Fuzzy. It's fuzzy.
Happened. It's always something happened. I made a choice, and then this thing happened. Then I made a choice again, and yeah. But nobody can replicate that path.
That's right.
Yeah.
You are the one and only, very unique.
No, I'm not the one only. I'm trying to see what happens there. Can somebody replicate? Susah lah. And I tell you, one of them, very, very important, and for the young, this is what concerns me most, is that you don't have a leader, overall leader with a great vision. And I'm not trying to put down any of our politicians, but you need a person with great vision who sees, okay, you can have ups, down, all these blips, politics and whatnot, but that person must have a great vision of what the world, a country should be, because he knows what the world will look like in 50 years and push us there, And I was in that generation, Kasia, when my early career, we had that visionary leader, regardless of what you say about him politically, but in terms of vision of what a country should look like, especially in SNT, you need that sort of person, then who supports that, then he knows how to implement that vision. You're the vision, dia cakap-cakap, no point. You put the money, you put the resources there, and then you support. That's right. You have to support every step of the way, that strategic path, And this is what I call strategic thinking, strategic management. I don't see it happening right now, and I'm so concerned for the young people. So that's why in my job right now, I'm trying to get the young people together for them to think for themselves. I've had so many webinars on all kinds of subjects. The latest one I had was about what do young people have to do. We talk about young have to defend the planet, save the planet, blah, blah, blah. But you do not give them the resources, to do that. So the young are the one most unemployed right now. The young are the ones who cannot buy houses, let alone cars, And yet we say, oh, you have to handle climate change, you have to, everything like that, But you do not give them the institutional support. The ecosystem support, But then this is where I'm hoping that the young will see it for themselves, and work it through. Tak boleh lah. You cannot rely on older people to be, I don't know. That's what I'm feeling right now. And I'm very concerned because, I don't know how much more I can do. I'm 3 times retired, as you can tell from my CV.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Appointed 3 times.
Still. And the last thing I'm seeing is for the young, because the young the tropics belongs to the young. Right? I don't know. You don't know this. But by 2015, 2/3 of the young people will be living in the tropics. Because Japan is old. Italy, something like
Very old people.
35% are bloody old.
Yeah.
So, so you know where the impetus is going to come from. It's from the tropics because the young people are there. So what I'm trying to do right now, apart from open science, whatnot, art science, I've got my art science, open science, but I also have this youth thing that I think I need to help. And that is that the tropics is young. We have our own problems to solve. You don't have to go to the UK, to US to find exciting problems. You go into robotics. You tell them, the young people, you know that Japan is putting trillions of dollars into robotics, and also the US. How can we compete? But if we talk about the problem of oceans and how it affects climate change, how bananas, anything, our biodiversity, whatever.
Yeah, Dato'. We have one question here from,
Please.
from a young
I'm going on
librarian.
and on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's really interesting, you know, how you illuminate the philosophical part of the open science. So actually, are we ready for open science? This is from Yusrina Abu Bakar.
I think we are. I mean, if you keep asking yourself, are we ready? Are we ready? Is because you are telling yourself somebody should make
Somebody
it
should
for you. You should be thinking, am I ready? You know, and if you think, am I ready? Automatically, yes, why not? We are all ready to share. And therefore, you go to your head of department or whoever, I'm ready, let's go.
Let's go.
Don't ask, is everybody else ready? Are you ready? And the answer is a definitive yes.
Yes, mashallah. Will that answer you? Was Yusrina, you have any more discussion? If
Follow
you
up?
you want to engage, follow up. So actually, I have 7 questions.
Quick, let's go.
But
There's some
all was answered by you.
common threads.
In fact, there is a question on care that you mentioned, the collective
Yes.
benefit, authority to control, responsibility, and ethics.
Exactly, that's the one.
That care philosophy, you know, compared to the fair was like really fair, you know. I mean, everybody is in that, you know, level, you know. But the care part, you know, is I think when you mentioned about preprints, you know, there was a lot of brouhaha, you know, from the researchers, you know, wanting to have their papers visible at the point that, you know, minimum 2-3 days after they publish, you know, they wanted to.
Of course. Yeah.
So can you elaborate on the care part, you know, on the collective benefit, authority to control, responsibility, and ethics, you know? So actually, what is it that, you know, the researchers want, you know, when they are doing the research, that they are there to share actually the fair part?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So it depends on what's motivating you. When you are writing an article, what motivates you will tell you where you're going to put the article. Maybe you have to put it in a newspaper because you want to have a quick response. You want to have people because it's something topical. But of course, you know, it's not going to increase your age index. Okay, but I don't know how many researchers are in this group talking with us right now. So it's really what your motivation is. And then once you have, then you decide if your motivation is to have as many people talk about your subject so that you can go on to the next step. Itu yang they want it to be out there within 2 days, if possible, in the same day. And so, you know, it becomes very time critical because, you know, somebody else is writing about it too. And you want people to know you came up with this idea, you want to add on. Then there's the ethics of it. I can't think of, you know, how, if you're going to do it very quickly, therefore it has problems in terms of the ethics. I'm not sure I know how to answer that, but I can tell you of an example. At the International Science Council, somebody in the Philippines wrote to me and said that, because I'm the regional the director of the regional office, he said that they find that one article that was coming out in Nature had violated their the indigenous people. They have a provision that says that you do not reveal any information about indigenous people or whatnot without going to the ethics commission.
Yeah.
or the ethics committee. And these people who had done that actually went to the ethics committee. They were rejected. But nevertheless, they sort of reconstructed the data and straight away sent it to Nature. And of course, a big hoo-ha there. How ethical is that? But it's all about motivation, what's motivating you and how ethics is coming from inside. You can have as many guidelines, laws, provisions, whatever. In the end, it comes from within you. So I'm sorry, I cannot answer, on the issue of ethics, what one can do about that.
But because we have that the bigger magnet, of publish or perish.
Yes.
So
But I think that but of course, this is driven by your KPI.
Right.
University KPIs. And that's why I always say that I could never run a university if asked, because my spirit, my soul does not jibe with this KPI that you must publish only in Nature before somebody thinks you are great, that your H index is what defines you as a person. Good God. H index. And I'm like so sad and upset when I see, I'm on some committees for choosing awards, give them awards, a lifetime awards or something. And the first thing somebody asks is, what is his H index? And I'm thinking, why? We are talking about contributions to society. H index is not a measure of your contribution to society. As I said, I cannot be part of this very KPI index oriented, because then nobody will like me. So it's okay.
That's why I think you are the only person I think we can ask about philosophy, because I remember you spoke in one of the in one of those webinars. You mentioned about these clusters of galaxies, and how actually, you did that.
And then?
Yeah, so actually the dotted things that you have said, how much actually when we measure from this dot to this point, actually they are we cannot put in that statistics actually. But here the people at the blue dot, the pale blue dot,
blue dot.
Yeah, we are very statistics, we are counting everything, for ourselves, for me, yeah. And you mentioned about
but there are reasons for that, and our ecosystem is what current ecosystem is what makes us become people like that, but I don't know, we have to get out of that and read more and philosophize more, look at humanity. I suppose it was natural that I wanted to work for the UN, because I wanted to see the world as a whole, and once I went to the UN, every word that came out of my mouth is, how does it benefit humanity? So I love that. And I think the most rewarding part of my career was in the UN, because in the end, so it's a part. First, I'm talking about myself. Can I do research? Can I do this? Can I publish? But in the end, I always thought about, how would this benefit humanity, guys? So it's a big gap, but so rewarding at the end of my life. So towards not of my life, not yet, of my career.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing things like art science, open science, always multidisciplinary, multi-sectoral, transdisciplinary. I cannot go to anything else apart from those. And astrophysics is great, because astrophysics is about looking at the entire universe.
That's right. Beautiful, mashallah. So actually, we can continue on and on, Dato.
Yes,
I really love the engagement that you put in, your passion. You're very illuminating in the terms that when you're saying that if we are at the pale blue dot, you can see us. Who are these people that always talking about statistics and search index? So actually, I wanted to just summarize a bit of whatever you have shared with us since
Yes, I know. I thought I shouldn't take that long, but once you get me going, itu belum lagi cakap pasal aliens tu tau.
Oh, maybe we have another one, alien.
Maybe we have another
Yes,
one.
yes, we have another
Indian
one.
librarians, something like that. Okay, please summarize if you want to.
Yeah, you have spoken to us about the philosophy, quite literally the term means about the love of wisdom, which is you are, in a broad sense, is philosophy and activity that undertake what we seek to understand the fundamental truths about it, the world and where we live. One point there. Another point you spoke about the open science, open access, and the democratization of knowledge, which the librarians should be in a broader scope. In a broader scope, could contribute to the open science, especially on data management, on the self-training, and continue to be excited and passionate about adapting any policies. And in fact, we have, we have the volunteers in the library, so we can call these people, to share. Yeah, we have currently in our library, Dato, we have about 10 students coming from many universities that they are volunteering. Some of them are paid as interns, some are no payment. Still they come, to volunteer.
Yes, they will come. Interns don't have to be paid. They love what they do.
So I gather that, we heard the mention about Open Science Club. I hope everybody will go towards that. And I like the word that reproducibility. The T is TEA.
Yes.
Beautiful. Yes. And of course, I think librarians like to hear this again. Librarians are poised at crest of knowledge, galvanizing and incentivizing the knowledge movement, the knowledge activities.
You are.
Yeah, I hope all these beautiful words, can be captured by these by the librarians. And now is 9:46. I think there is one more question for you before I wrap up.
I did take 1 hour 15 minutes then.
Yeah, can you anticipate the future of open science environment in Malaysia?
It's going. It's it's like a big train going, and it's going. If you are going to contest or resist or desist, you'll be left behind.
Thank you. Oh, there's one more. What are the strategies for implementation of OS? I think we should call these people, Azhar. Azhar, we will call you.
You need another
session.
In fact, you need a panel for this. Because
yes,
come from various kinds of backgrounds, the strategy. So you can call a panel for that.
Yeah, beautiful. Good. I mean, it's a lot of tips and token, I think, from you, Dato.
An astrophysicist.
Yes, thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our session this morning. And I really love to see, the engagement and the passion from our berbahagia academician, Professor Emerita Dato' Sri Dr. Mazlan binti Osman. With, of course, the topic, I think one and only philosophical topic.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Throughout the training, the bengkel that we have. Yeah, so hopefully, we can practice open science, we can promote open science, and of course, we can open our heart.
Open your hearts, open your minds, Yeah.
So thank you very much, Dato', for your insightful presentation.
Whatever I can do,
Yeah, thank you
and
so much.
I love librarians, so.
Oh, we love you too, Dato'. Okay, hope you take care and jaga kesihatan,
Yeah, inshallah.
So thank you very much, and I think I end the session. Over to saya serahkan majlis seterusnya kepada pengurusi majlis. Dipersilakan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada Yang Bahagia Academician Profesor Emerita Datuk Seri Dr. Mazlan Osman dengan perkongsian sesi pertama Philosophy on Open Science and Open Access. Dan majlis juga mengucapkan terima kasih kepada moderator Dr. Kazih Zakaria. Para hadirin yang dihormati, bagi meraihkan majlis sebagai tanda kenang-kenangan, para hadirin diminta mengaktifkan kamera masing-masing untuk sesi bergambar. Sedia? 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi, senyum. 1, 2, 3. Ucapan terima kasih atas kerjasama yang bahagia Datuk Seri, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Tuan-tuan, puan-puan, para peserta program, kita akan rehat seketika dan akan bersiar semula pada jam 10 pagi. Terima kasih dan jumpa lagi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Datuk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Datuk.
Mohon maaf ya terlebih
Thank you.
terkurang. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Datuk Kazia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice.
Thank you, Datuk Kazia. Thanks.